Okay.
Uh, Being from real South Mississippi, we did have a lot of experience during the Depression. I spoke earlier about the Depression, where all the money was frozen. It just didn't make any. The banks all failed. You didn't have any coins or money in your hands or pocket to buy anything. And if nobody could sell anything, make any money. So we were, it really was a formation of the demise of the Arcadia Creamery, the complex creamery of my grandfather Bowden. And they sold off to I believe it was Borden. In any event, my dad at the time was involved in it. They had agreed that they would never open an ice cream business for 10 years, I think. And that kept them from going back in the ice cream business when things got better. And it did get better eventually. The banks very slowly over time, and we know all the effects of President Roosevelt at the time implemented. But it was really World War II at the beginning that brought us out of the Depression as we knew it. I remember my first job was a paper boy, and very difficult. I think I made $2 or $3 a week,
Wow.
and we delivered papers every day. And I was with the New Orleans, not the Times-Picayune, but it was the New Orleans evening paper of the Times. And it was not a very popular paper, and people had to be persuaded to take one. So I was in that for several years, and eventually got another job. On top of that was a night clerk at one of the motels on Highway 90, really near where I lived anyway. And it was a nightclub, clerk there for many years. Not many years, but 2 or 3. And made a lot more money. I think I made $1 a day.
Did you have to stay up all night?
I could sleep, if we had, unfortunately, no vacancies, I could sleep all night.
Oh, that's nice.
But it didn't often work that way. So I'd get awakened several times. But nevertheless, it was a good job. And
Well, Mom was telling me stuff about how much things cost back then. Like how much was the loaf of bread
nickel,
and how much was some milk, gallon of milk. You remember?
we didn't have to bother about milk too much.
Because you had cows.
We had our farm that Dad inherited from the breakup of the creamery. It was a big farm, and we had really gardens out there. It was a big crop producing place, and we had plenty of iced potatoes and butter beans and green beans and
That's nice.
Anything that grow in Mississippi. And in the cooler weather of the winter, we had like a pile of oysters in the backyard that were still good. Had no refrigeration, but at cool temperature, they stayed good. I did not like oysters then. I do not like them today. We lived off of oysters and
You don't like sweet potatoes much either.
Sweet potatoes are the other unit I did not like. But we lived on fried potatoes, baked potatoes. They're not too bad, but you just, if you live off of them,
It gets old.
it's not good. So it was a time of dirt. We were dirt poor, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't really feel that way because everybody was.
Everybody's in the same boat.
Nobody had any money.
And so people kind of bartered to
You
survive.
bartered, right. You swap them off for a sack of something, sweet potatoes, and they'd give you something else.
Mm-hmm.
It went on for several years, and slowly, for the time that we had tokens, you had to, when you spent any money you did have, you have the aluminum tokens was Mississippi's way of getting taxes. Mississippi almost went bankrupt during the time. It had no revenue coming in, so they made their own a little silver aluminum token for a penny, and one that was a nickel for dimes, 5. It was worth 5 tokens. But when you spent $1, you had to have some tokens to go with it. And the same way,
What is it, like sales tax or something?
it was very much like sales tax. We paid a day a penny or several pennies or nickels, dimes.
Yeah.
That came along and took the place of tokens. But before there was money that was left on as taxes,
Huh?
you had tokens in Mississippi.
Did you, how much was gas? Do you remember how much gas was?
10 or 15 cents a gallon.
It's just unbelievable. Did you go swimming almost every day when you lived there?
Yeah, in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even in the spring, it was warm enough to swim, even into late fall. But we even went down to the seawall and tried to catch fish.
Was this before they had sand and a beach there?
Now, they built the seawall about the time I was born. And up to that time, we had the Highway 90, which was the international highway, went from the East Coast to the West Coast. And along Highway 90, you had the electric railroad, they called it, which was nothing but a trolley car system that ran from Biloxi to Pass Christian. So people rode that
That's cool.
and it was really effective. My mother lived in Jackson, and all of her childhood life was visiting at the Lancaster Lodge of my grandfather on Bayou, Canada. And they came down the GNSI Railroad, which was built by Major Jones, who was building, he was going to build the Gulf and Ship Island system. That's what the railroad's called. GNSI was the Gulf and Ship Island Railroad connecting Jackson, Mississippi with Gulfport. And they had to come down, and they had a big circular thing for the locomotives. The locomotive was pointed south when it came, and in some way had to be turned around. So they devised a system where it had a big circular place where the locomotive ran out on, and they turned the circular system around to point the railroad north, the locomotive, when they wanted to return. But anyway, what I was going to say, my mother and grandmother and her whole family would come down to their Lancaster Lodge, which had several houses, little houses where they could, cottages really, and they would stay the part of the summer on the coast, away from the heat of the day, in Jackson, further north. So she tells stories about life in those little cottages where she'd go to bed and they'd look up and it was real thin wallpaper, really heavy wallpaper that sealed the little cottage off, and they could see a big rat snake
Oh,
falling down on the paper, which was a terrible sight for them.
what happened? Did they have to get somebody to come get it, or did they just try to go to sleep?
They just tried to go to sleep. Those old big snakes would get up there and live, keep the rat population under control.
I get it's good and bad about that.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
Coming down that little GNSI railroad, she was on a train that had a bad wreck that she was always impressed about because it caught fire and made a lot of visible effects.
Did she get hurt?
She didn't get hurt, but the other people did. And it jumped the track or something. But the man, Major Jones, was going to build, on the GNSR Railroad, he was going to build a trestle rail connection out to Ship Island, which is the best deep water port in the entire Gulf. It was, and is today.
Did not know that.
It was. And during the time all this was going on, the great cutting of the pine, native pine tree, everywhere was pine forest. And they were old, big, powerful trees. They came in there in droves of people. And the ships, for a few years, the Mississippi Gulfport was the largest active port in the whole country. And they would have ships lined up out at Ship Island, waiting to come in and load up with the pine that were being cut.
Yeah. We have something that reminds me of, I think it said Oak Island. They have a station, it's like a big giant boat or something out in the deep water, and I think they bring things to it from the port on the island, I guess. And I think ships can bring and take merchandise. It's pretty cool.
Well, that went on until they cut all the trades down. But even today, you can go see in the woods railroad lines. They had to run railroads into the forest to pick up the trades and take them to the port. So you had many little short rails to handle it. And that's the peculiarity of the time. But they did cut all the native trees.
And that's so sad.
It's different today from the way it initially was.
You would really like to see some of the pine trees in my yard. I mean, they're just the biggest things. You can't put your arms around them at all.
That's what was there. And that's what was shipped all over the world. The ships would come into Gulfport empty because they had no cargo going that way. But they had to have some ballast, so they'd have rocks, big rocks in the ships to keep them down low in the water and able to
Interesting.
transverse. And those are still there today on the outbreak of the pier at the port of Gulfport.
That's interesting. Well, do you remember the day the Titanic sank?
No, I wasn't alive.
It was way before your time.
Yeah,
How about the Lusitania?
I don't remember it, but it did sink in World War I.
Okay. I know Grandmama had books on the Titanic, and it seemed like she had one on the Lusitania, because I sure did read something.
I've read about it in the National Geographic.
Mm-hmm.